Insulin is like a key. It goes, it circulates in your blood, and it opens up the door of the muscle and it pushes the sugar inside. Most of these diets work on short term, 3 months, 4 months. That's why people are selling it for lose 40 kg in 3 months. Nobody is giving you guarantee beyond 3 months. Now the interesting thing is, we can predict whether a newborn child is going to become overweight or obese in future, just by knowing one simple thing: how is the mother? If the mother has obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, fatty liver, there are
Welcome to Season 2 of Health Charcha with Medtronic, the podcast where we simplify healthcare, share real-life experiences, and dive deep into breakthrough treatments. I'm your host Kartik, and today we are focusing on a fascinating connection that affects every one of us: hunger and sleep. Did you know that lack of sleep doesn't just make you tired? It can actually rewire how your brain and hormones control hunger. Studies show that poor sleep, cravings for high-calorie foods disrupt hormones like leptin and ghrelin and raises the risk of obesity and metabolic disease. To help us understand the science behind hunger, sleep, and the brain, we are joined by Dr. Abhishek Katakwar. Dr. Katakwar is the director at the Center for Obesity and Metabolic Therapy, AIG Hospital, Hyderabad. He is a renowned bariatric and metabolic surgeon with international fellowships in robotic surgery, metabolic surgery, and minimal access surgery. Dr. Katakwar, thank you so much for sparing your wonderful time and being here at this platform. We are looking forward to a conversation that's going to be remembered. And there are a few myths that we really want you to bust. There are a few pieces of information that we want you to spill. And there are a few things that every person wants to know, as you being the expert on the show would love to share with our lovely audience. So thank you so much for sharing your wonderful time with us.
Thank you, Kartik, and in fact, it's an honor to be here. And I've been doing this myth busting for years, and I'm a strong provocative of who speaks against body image issues. So I'm here to help everyone.
Well, doctor, starting this podcast, there is this one thing that is actually becoming like throwing your visiting cards on the crossroad. This particular term, insulin resistance. This is being used every single day in every small water cooler conversations. What is insulin resistance? So what is, firstly, we'll deep down go into the basics. What is insulin? What is insulin resistance? Please.
Okay. So the most important thing here is to understand what is insulin, as you rightly mentioned. Insulin is a hormone which is produced by your pancreas, and it is produced in response to increase in blood sugar. Now, whenever you eat something, it will increase your blood sugar. And now you need to also understand it's not only the sugar, but also the protein and fat, which can also increase your insulin level.
Correct.
So whenever you have a demand of insulin, the brain sends signal to the pancreas, and pancreas, in response to the brain, secretes insulin. Now, insulin is like a key. It goes, it circulates in your blood, and it opens up the door of the muscle and it pushes the sugar inside.
Okay.
Now, important thing here is it can only push certain form of sugar, not everything. So that's why this fructose and those maple syrup and all these things, they are becoming dangerous.
Correct.
Because they can't be utilized by the muscle. They can only be utilized by the liver, and that's why we are seeing a lot of fatty liver, because it is metabolized only in liver. Now, coming back to insulin, insulin once pushes the sugar into the muscle utilizes it, and it produces energy which we use it for day-to-day purpose. It's like machine. It's a fuel for the machine.
Correct.
And when we have increase in the insulin level, but the problem is when insulin is not able to work. As I said, insulin is like a key. Correct. So it becomes more political. So political thing is, your insulin is there, but it is not able to work because there is a lot of resistance that is happening, and that resistance is because of the body fat. Once you have insulin resistance, this insulin cannot act. It cannot open up the door, and it cannot push the sugar inside the muscle. But as I said, it is political. Insulin has to answer the brain. Insulin has to answer the belly that, yes, I am doing something. And what it does, it converts that sugar into the fat.
Okay.
Now, it's a vicious cycle. You have insulin resistance because of the fat. And then this insulin is converting sugar again into fat. So, you have more insulin resistance, and this vicious cycle makes everyone gain weight. Once you start gaining weight because of insulin resistance, you already have excess of insulin. And when your insulin is not able to work properly, your blood sugar will rise. Once your blood sugar rises, you go to a doctor and he says that you have become diabetic. He starts you with a medicine wherein it decreases your insulin resistance. Most commonly is metformin or glucomet. Now the problem is when these medicines are not able to work, this doctor will add one more tablet, one more tablet, one more tablet. And then your insulin resistance is not going down. Finally, one day you go to doctor and he said that now drugs are not helping you. We have to put you on insulin. Now this is the catch. Now try to understand whether your insulin is produced by your body or it is produced or it is given from outside.
Externally.
Until and unless you have insulin resistance, no matter whether this is an inside insulin or whether it was given from outside, it is not going to help. So I do get a lot of people who come to me with very high doses of insulin, and nobody bothered to check that how to reduce that insulin resistance, rather than we are giving them, pumping them a lot of insulin.
Well, doctor, will it be correct to say that insulin resistance is truly the culprit? Because it's a different catch. People at this point of time are having a different sort of a lifestyle. Everyone right now is not really bothered about how obesity happens to them, because we live in a country जहाँ पे हमें ऐसा लगता है कि कुछ मेजर जब तक नहीं हो रहा है हमारे साथ तब तक हम डॉक्टर्स के पास नहीं जाएंगे, एक्सपर्ट्स के पास नहीं जाएंगे, because we have the Google barbers of the world who are just one click away. You just simply have to write down what you're feeling, and Google will give you all the respective ज्ञान जो उसके प्लेटफॉर्म पे है. So will it be okay to say that insulin resistance is truly the culprit here?
Yes. So unfortunately in India, we don't believe in preventive healthcare. We believe in sick care.
Sick care.
We go to the hospital only when we are sick. And you know the reason why? Because in India, healthcare is so accessible. If you go to West, you have to wait for 6 months, 8 months for an appointment of a GP.
Correct.
But in India, anytime you can go to a doctor, and that's why we have been taking it for granted. That's a problem. But I want to tell you a very important thing here, that over the years, sugar is the main culprit. But we have been, initial, when you look into 90s, they blamed fat. Fat is bad. Then everybody started saying, no, fat is not bad, fat is good for you. Then they said, okay, carb is bad. But specifically, we need to understand it's not the carb, it's the pure form of sugar which is not good for you. Okay. Now, once everybody started blaming sugar, the industrialization came up with new things, the new substitutes. So we started having corn syrup, maple syrup, and all those syrups, which are even more dangerous. You know the reason, because when you consume sugar, it increases your blood sugar.
Yes.
And in that response, you secrete insulin.
Okay.
So we had something called glycemic index. Now, what was the catch used by this big industries? That okay, anything which increases your glycemic index is bad. So they came up with artificial sweeteners, maple syrup, and all those things. They will have low glycemic index, but they will have high insulin index. So we need to understand these two terms, glycemic index and insulin index. Now we have to look into the insulin index. Anything which is increasing your insulin level over a period of time, it's not good for you.
Well, doctor, you have been associated with this fraternity for so long, and you would have, met a lot of people during this entire tenure. People have this constant habit of complaining about the fact कि मैंने dieting भी करी है. I've done exercise, but weight loss नहीं हो रहा. That because apparently we live in a world where everything has moved to a 7-inch or a 14-inch screen. People are really conscious about how they look, how they appear to people, and looks has certainly become like a plus point for them to be famous,
Yes.
to be out there, कि सब आपको आके appreciate करें. But then जब उनको डाइट करने के लिए बोलो, एक्सरसाइज करने के लिए बोलो, they say that इससे तो एंड रिजल्ट मिल नहीं रहा है, वेट लॉस अभी भी नहीं हो रहा है. सो इज इट ट्रू कि वेट लॉस डाइटिंग या एक्सरसाइज से नहीं और भी चीजें आपको करनी पड़ेंगी, उसी के बाद होगा?
So I'll tell you two important facts about diet. Most of the diet plans work. Most of them. Now listen to my second statement. Most of the diet plans doesn't work on long term. So you might have come across many people who have tried diet there, and to be honest, if you go to Google and type diet plan, there will be more than 4,000 to 5,000 suggestions.
Okay.
Why there are so many diet plans? Because everybody has their own concept of diet, and most of these diet work on short term, 3 months, 4 months. That's why people are selling it for lose 40 kg in 3 months. Nobody is giving you guarantee beyond
Correct.
3 months.
Correct.
Because they know that after that it is not going to work. And why does it happen? Because your body resists weight loss after certain period. And I give this because we were talking before about this podcast that there's a book called Obesity Code, and I'm a huge fan of Jason Fung, who clearly mentioned that we have a set point for everything. We have set point for temperature, we have set point for temperature, eating, hunger, satiety, everything. Similarly, we have set point for your weight also. Now, let's go back to what happened when the lockdown was announced, and it was said that from tomorrow onwards it is complete lockdown. What was I'll ask you this question. What was the first thing everyone did?
To stack up all their rations, the
Yes.
groceries,
Yes.
and all the medical aids that they could.
Yes.
Probably we should have water, we should have all the groceries, we should have our grains in place so that the entire family can at least eat
Yes.
during that lockdown period.
Because it was a state of panic.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
And let us correlate this to our human body. When you are starving or when you are on a diet plan, you're cutting down on your calories. Your body thinks that, why Kartik, who was able to receive 2,000, 2,500 calories just away, 1 month back, suddenly I'm realizing that body is not able to receive those calories.
Correct.
So it will go into a state of panic, and it will say that maybe there is lockdown outside, there's no food left, and I should reserve more. And then here comes a word called metabolism. So your body tries to conserve more. So how will it conserve? It will reduce your metabolism. It slows your metabolism, and it preserves more in the form of fat. Okay. In fact, in my OP, I've seen a lot of females coming to me and saying, डॉक्टर साहब अब ऐसा लग रहा है कि पानी पीने से और सांस लेने से भी वजन बढ़ रहा है. And nobody believes them. Everybody thinks that कि दिन भर तो नहीं खा रहे हैं,
Correct.
रात में जब सब सो जाते होंगे तब ये चुपके से खा के चले जाते होंगे और इसलिए इनका वेट बढ़ रहा है. It is so, I mean, they are being judged, and they are being judged for it every moment of their life, because somebody who is suffering with obesity, they never went to God and said, Bhagwan, मुझे
Correct.
मोटापा दे दो.
Correct. Doctor, what is, because this is a world where everything is being judged on technology now. We have a habit of expressing our emotions in some technological slangs. Brain is actually the CPU of a human body. How does brain resist long-term weight loss? And just like before we were talking about, being obese, being a little overweight, it has a lot of mental stress on an individual. So what firstly, I want to ask you, how does brain resist long-term weight loss? Second thing, what is the social impact of being obese? Because I'm sure every individual has their own respective story, but you have been the expert in this fraternity and you have met some diverse people from across the country. So what was the reaction like?
So when you start losing weight, we were discussing about it. So your brain resisted by secreting certain bad hormones. These hormones are responsible for you to be hungry all the time. And in fact, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. Most of us have fallen sick when we were kids.
Correct.
So when we fall sick, what happens? We lose weight. Because if you have typhoid, malaria, anything, you lose weight. So in your brain, it is registered that whenever you fall sick, you lose weight. And this memory remains in your brain. So in adulthood, when you're trying to lose weight, your brain thinks vice versa.
Okay.
It feels that, oh, I'm losing weight. Am I sick? And then suddenly somebody will come and tell you, oh, why are you looking? Because in India, if you start losing weight by effort, people will come and say, oh, you don't look good. Are you sick or
Yeah.
something? And that's why, people start feeding you those thought process.
Correct.
Your mother will come and say, oh, why are you not eating? Because in India, that's a culture. If you eat 2 chapatis, they will put 2 more, thinking that it's a way of affection. So in long term, no matter how hard you try, because of this hormone changes and there are a lot of things which happens, most of the diet fails in long term. That's the reason. And it's all about hormones. And in fact, speaking of, you asked something about obesity.
Like socially, what is the social impact of someone being obese? Because obviously people get a little conscious about how they look, how they appear, and every time when they get a picture clicked, they have the tendency of telling my left profile is something that you need to capture. My right one looks a little out of order. So what is the social impact of somebody who says that I'm obese?
Forget about right and left profile. If you see their phone, they haven't clicked their own picture for years. And when somebody is clicking picture, they'll just walk away. And it becomes so difficult for them because the moment somebody speaks about weight, they go into their taboo. They go into their cocoon. They don't want to speak about it. It is so personal. So, they start avoiding anybody who speaks about their weight. In fact, to an extent that they start avoiding social gatherings.
Correct.
They don't want to go to office parties. They will never click picture. They will start wearing clothes which are very loose fitting. And anybody who wants to speak about their weight, they become very conscious. And to be honest, body image issue and weight bias, body stigma, these are the all words which we are using. In fact, now we don't use words like morbid obesity. We use words severe obesity. In fact, we should use word like overweight because we don't want specific words to be used for someone who is suffering with obesity.
Correct. And on a personal level, we have seen that people who are suffering from obesity, they tend to isolate themselves. Like you rightfully said, they are not a part of the social gathering anymore. They don't feel really confident, even if they have the entire skill set of the world and they can conquer anything. But obviously, their confidence gets completely shaken up. These are all the personal trauma that an individual feels who is suffering because of obesity. But if we look at the bigger picture, if we talk about an economic burden on a country like India, what's your take on that? How does it wider the economic burden on a country like India?
Right now, every 4th Indian is overweight or obese. And already we are the leader in diabetes worldwide. And you can't even imagine how much burden it is going to have on the next generation. So, there are 3 generations right now. The generation who is above 50, the generation between 30 to 50, and the generation below 30. Now, I'll tell you a very interesting thing. I have seen a young kid of 15-year-old with no family history of diabetes becoming diabetic at the age of 15 years. And I'm not talking about type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is we can predict whether a newborn child is going to become overweight or obese in future. Just by knowing one simple thing, how is the mother? Okay. If the mother has obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, fatty liver, there are 90% chance that no matter how much care they take, that child is going to have fatty liver, insulin resistance in the adult life. And there are a lot of papers which have published. So when I get someone in my OP, I tell them that you are already suffering. But
Correct.
Please, if you want, you can prevent it for the next generation. So next time, even if your child is not studying, that's okay. But let him go out, let him play, and you play with them. Don't just be an instructor. You have to be a role model. That's very, very
Correct.
important.
Doctor, throughout this podcast, you emphasized on the coming generation. What are we giving to the coming generation? What the coming generation might go through? And this is actually the question which has become like the need of the hour and needs to be answered properly. There are more and more children who are becoming obese every single day. With this lifestyle change contributing to this trend, we have irregular sleep cycles. Obviously, people like me or people who are behind the camera can also add on to this, that irregular sleep cycle, this corporate job culture where we don't know when we have to log in, when we have to log out. We have no clue about when our work is going to get over, and because of that, obviously there is a shift in our lifestyle. A lot of screen time. The 7-inch and the 14-inch screen are not really helping a lot of people at this point in time, especially the children, because now they don't have a habit of going outside and play proper sports, the outdoor sports. Now they are sticking up to gaming on their respective tablets or a mobile phone, on a computer. So with more and more children getting obese, how is it contributing to this trend? There is obesity, there is metabolic issues with children. Do you think all of these things are also majorly contributing towards obesity?
So I'll start answering from a different perspective. You spoke about screen, and I always use this word. I use social media as a dustbin. I put my information, I dump it there, but I never take anything from the dustbin. What I mean by that, that though I'm using social media, all these medias for spreading awareness, but I don't get stuck to it. The second thing is, you spoke about childhood obesity. The very important thing is, it is the responsibility of not only the parents, but the school, the society, the government, everyone, to make sure that we have healthy adults in later part. And I'm very grateful to recent thing which has happened. If you know about it, there is a thing which has happened that's called CBSE Food Board.
Food board, yes.
They have come up with some idea that, okay, this is what the recommendation, and in fact people are getting a lot of awareness by reading the labels and all those things. So I tell everyone that it's a mutual and joint responsibility of everyone, that if you want, in fact, I would say one thing. We spend a lot of money thinking that, okay, if my child wants to go to some good restaurant and they want to eat all those processed food, we spend a lot of money in thousands to make sure that they have they enjoy their lifestyle, because we were deprived of that. That's
Correct.
what we feel. So as a parent, you should never have that guilt, that okay, because I was deprived of all those Western food and all those brands, I should feed it to my kid so that at least he should enjoy. That's a bad habit. We are spending thousands on that. We'll spend lakhs of rupees in maybe in next 20 years treating the problems which has been caused by these problems. By these food habits.
Doctor, new age medications, especially when it comes to weight loss, they are getting a lot of attention now. Bariatric surgery is getting a lot of attention now, and certainly people are looking up for this. There are new weight loss medication, there is bariatric surgery. Do you think these treatments can actually change the landscape of obesity in our country and globally?
Yes. So speaking of these new drugs, I always use a phrase from Spider-Man: with great powers comes great responsibility. My biggest concern is these drugs should not be abused, because a lot of people are thinking that this is a miracle drug. They can just go to any store, they can have self-prescription. In fact, it was there in US. But anything which comes into the market, it has its own way of going ahead. So probably I would say these drugs are in the honeymoon phase right now, and sooner or later there will be some understanding and people will realize that when to use and when not to use, because these drugs are quite new. We still don't know what effect it will leave upon human body after 10-15 years.
Correct.
So that is why please do not become doctor of your own body. please, you have to consult a doctor before you get into any of these drugs, because you don't know how bad it can be for you.
Correct.
And speaking of bariatric surgery has been there for more than 30, 40 years now. And it has evolved.
Correct.
It has reached a phase wherein we know that on this person this is going to work, and on this person this is not working, on this person it is not indicated.
Correct.
So bariatric surgery is something, and in fact I'll tell you a very interesting thing. What are these drugs? These drugs are nothing but the hormones which are produced by your own body. Okay, they are the natural hormones, and these hormones are produced more after bariatric surgery.
Okay.
So that is how these hormones came into someone's mind, that okay, after bariatric surgery, these are the hormones which increase, and these are the hormones responsible for weight loss. So maybe some great scientist found out that, and then he made those hormones. But I want to tell you a very important thing here, and I'm probably sure that some people might have thought about it. You might disagree with me, but a hormone which is produced by your body, it's a normal physiological response, as we were talking about insulin. It's a normal physiological response. So if a hormone which is produced by normal physiological response by your body after surgery is controlled by your body. But imagine if you're taking that hormone similar like insulin from outside.
Like externally.
You don't know whether this is enough, sufficient, or you're overdosing yourself. Another part of the story, we still don't know that where does this hormone work. These hormones have certain receptors in your brain and your different parts of body, and they go and they attach to those receptors. Now, we had seen insulin resistance, and my biggest concern is, can we have resistance to these hormones or these drugs if you use it for long term? This is very controversial, but we need to think about it, because if we develop resistance to these drugs, we are going to create an obesity which cannot be treated with anything in future.
Well, doctor, time now to bust some myths around, hunger, sleep, and especially obesity. I want you to debunk these myths. The first one is overeating and laziness are one of the prime reasons for excessive weight gain.
See, overeating and laziness are not the only reason. In fact, they are the effect of obesity. Once you become overweight, you need more calories to move your body. That's why you overeat. And because your body weight has become more,
you tend to become lazy.
You tend to become lazy because you get tired. A similar thing happens with obesity.
Well, the second myth is actually, passed on to us from generations, like a past generation. Eating after 7 p.m. causes severe weight gain.
I would say that yes, there is a logic behind it. Your metabolism, how your body reacts to that food, that is also responsible for that. So, you should finish your dinner before sunset, and you should, there's another concept which says that you should eat only when you're hungry. You should not follow that protocol that, okay, breakfast has to be the best thing. So in fact, every human body is different. Something which might work upon me may not work upon you. So we have to find our own mojo and find out what is working on me and what is working on other people.
Well, the third one, sleeping for more hours will automatically lead to weight loss.
No, in fact, it will not actually lead to weight loss, but it will improve your weight loss journey. So speaking of that, why sleep is important. So what happens is, when you sleep, there are 3 phases of sleep. We call it non-REM sleep and REM sleep. So in this type of pattern, what happens is, there is a sleep wherein your brain deletes all those information which is not relevant, and it segregates that information into short term and long term. So long term memories goes into different box, short term goes into different, and then whatever is not recommended or needed, it gets deleted. But when you have a disrupted sleep, your brain can't do that control alt delete. So what will have? your brain will have so much information, and it is not organized also. So people who have, you might feel that a day, maybe if you're working very late yesterday night, today will be a little bit foggy.
Yeah.
You will be like not able to
A
concentrate.
bit disoriented at times, yes.
Maybe a feeling like hangover. Because last night information were not organized. So imagine if every night is like that, if you're not having good sleep, your brain will be full of so much information which is not relevant, and then it can't figure out that what is relevant, what is not relevant.
Correct.
And when you have so much, your system will slow down, and your brain will focus on that thing, and it will have to, something has to pay the cost.
Correct.
And that cost is paid by the important integral function which your brain does for your health, regulation, metabolism.
Well, the fourth one, doctor. Bariatric surgery is purely cosmetic and highly risky.
Oh my God. So, we have been fighting for that. And in fact, unfortunately, for years, people were denied insurance coverage saying that it is in cosmetic surgery. But now, with all evidence, bariatric surgery is covered under insurance, considering that it is not cosmetic. So the first thing is, this is not cosmetic surgery. Second thing is, you asked about it is very risky. Yes, 30 years back it was risky, but now things have evolved. Techniques have become more we know what is right, what is wrong. There's a lot of role of follow-up which happens. There are a lot of things which we can predict about the nutritional issues and other problems. So I won't say it is risky, but yes, it can't be done without, bariatric surgery has to be done by a surgeon who is specialized in that specialty.
Correct.
And has a good experience number, not someone who's doing one bariatric surgery in an year. That's not the way. You should go for a center who is doing good bariatric surgery, who has a good team, because it's a multidisciplinary approach. And the risk factors are there, but they are very, very minimal now.
Well, coming down to the last myth, doctor. So strong willpower alone can override hunger hormone and can cure obesity.
Okay, let me answer it in a different way again, Kartik. You seems to be very fit. May I ask what is your weight?
My weight is 69.
69. What if I put a backpack with 1 kg weight, 69 weights, and I ask you to carry that backpack of 69 kg all the day? With that bag, you have to go to your office, and when you sleep in the night, you have to put that bag in your chest. And if I say, no, Kartik, you have a great willpower, you can do it for lifelong, will you be able to do it?
No, I won't.
Okay. So, willpower is important. But what if I start taking out 1 kg weight every day from your backpack?
Correct.
Every day when you get up, you feel lighter, you feel motivated. So the problem is, once somebody has gained weight, then willpower is not going to help. The willpower should work before the journey starts. Before somebody starts gaining weight, then there is a role of willpower. But if somebody has gained weight, if you tell them that no, this is because of your lack of willpower, you're doing the same thing which everyone is doing.
Correct.
You're blaming the victim.
Well, that brings us to the final segment of this podcast, Health Charcha Hotline. So, doctor, I have a question from Anjali Mehta from Pune, and she asks, I work rotating night shifts and often feel hungry late at night. What practical steps can I take to manage my appetite and avoid weight gain despite irregular sleep?
So whenever I see someone who says that I work for US timing, I say them, you are not a night watchman. Please quit it. If you really want to work for US timing, migrate to US, which is now difficult. So better is to avoid night shifts in long term, because it disrupts your circadian rhythm. But even if it is there, then what you should do? You should follow a trend wherein you finish your dinner before 7, as I said. If you're still hungry, your brain can't understand whether you're really hungry or you're thirsty. So I give this advice to everyone. If you're working and this is an odd timing, and if you're feeling hungry, maybe you're not hungry, you're thirsty. So drink 2 glasses of water. Wait for half an hour. If you're still feeling hungry, again drink 2 glasses of water. And if third time you still feel hungry, it means that you're really hungry. So that time you can have some nuts or some salad or something. But the important thing is, if you're sleeping in daytime, you should try to match as close as the real natural sleeping hours. So as soon as you finish your work, maybe even it is midnight, you go to sleep. And make sure that your room is dark. You're sleeping in a dark room. You can play some white music or something like that. But do not allow anyone to ring your bell, your Kaam Wali Bai, maids and everyone. So don't get it disrupted. You should have a sound sleep, continuous sleep, without screen or anything.
Well, thank you, Dr. Katakwar, for sharing such wonderful insights. And I'm sure you explained us how deeply actually sleep and our eating patterns are connected. And it's just not the habit. It's actually how science is rooted in our brains and hormones. So thank you so much for sparing your wonderful time and being here. And those words of wisdom will surely be remembered. And I'm sure people who are listening us, people who are watching us, will surely implement all of those things that you just explained today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kartik.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Health Charcha Season 2 with Medtronic. We hope you have gained a clearer understanding of today's topic and why taking timely action is key to long-term health. Until next time, take care of your health, be proactive, and remember, the right care is just a conversation away. To know more about advanced treatment options, consult a specialist today. This is your host Kartik, signing off.